So I've covered off family-friendly co-op games on the channel and those games which are designed to seal those relationships with couples co-op titles. But what about those games which are designed to utterly destroy them? I'm talking about some of the real ball breakers here, games which will see you going through Joy-Cons like a bag of Maltesers. Well, there are plenty of options available to you if you enjoy a challenge, and all of the games mentioned today support 2 or 4 player local co-op, so you get to struggle through them with a friend or two. As always, I've tried to amass a list of some of the lesser known Switch titles, though the majority of these have earned notoriety through the difficulty, or simply just by being awesome Switch games. Be sure to check out my other lists though, which include some of the best beat-em-ups, PS1 style games and retro shooters, and let's check out 10 of the most challenging local co-op games on the Nintendo Switch. So kicking things off, I'm hitting you with a 1-2 combo as both Spelunky and Spelunky 2 support 4-player co-op and are easily 2 of the most challenging games that I've ever played. Having you delve into caves and tombs on the search for hidden treasure, you might be forgiven for thinking that these games don't look that difficult, but don't let the cutesy visuals fool you, as the procedurally generated levels in this roguelike platformer are filled with traps and enemies, specifically designed to make your life a misery and end your run before you've even got started. Once you've mastered them, the controls in these ones are extremely tight though. There's a slew of hidden secrets for you to find and some fantastically tough boss fights for you to contend with, and each run through presents you with a new set of challenges. And while the RNG factor can really skew the difficulty at times, the game does take pity on you, offering up shortcuts to unlock to the latter levels. Overall though, the Spelunky games are well up there when it comes to the challenge they offer, and if I could give you one word of advice, it would be, whatever you do, don't attack the shopkeeper. So if you were a Nintendo gamer back in the 80s, the name Ghosts and Goblins will no doubt invoke memories of blood, sweat and tears, as the original NES title is notorious for its extreme difficulty and merciless gameplay. Ghosts and Goblins Resurrection is a testament to the popularity of the franchise, being the 8th game in the series, and much like its predecessors it brings a similar level of challenge, with players once more stepping into the ironclad boots of protagonist Arthur and embarking on a classic quest to rescue Princess Prinprin from the Demon Lord Astaroth. In this instalment though, you won't have to go it alone, as a second player can offer up support as one of 3 wise men, disembodied spirits instilled with their own unique powers, and while players new to the series will find some reprieve in the form of multiple difficulties, fans of the classic will no doubt find Legend mode to the liking, though regardless of the difficulty, unless you're an absolute beast, at least a couple of deaths is all but guaranteed. A true homage to the classics though this one, and well worth struggling through. From the old to the new then, or at least newer, next up we have Cuphead, a game which breaks boundaries in terms of its genre, but for the most part is centred around its boss battles. Able to be played in either 1 or 2 player modes, Cuphead takes a simple set of mechanics and elevates them, mixing run and gun gameplay with classic shmup action, with new weapons and abilities becoming available to you as you progress through its campaign, but ultimately it's all about mastering those boss mechanics through memory and repetition. Each of them comes with their own unique movesets for you to contend with, which as the fight goes on become increasingly more complex, and even in the early game these will challenge both your jumping and shooting skills, or in some cases your shoot 'em up skills. But there's nothing more satisfying than landing a knockout blow on a boss you've spent the last hour trying to beat. And the game's phenomenal hand-drawn rubber hose art style, reminiscent of the classic cartoons of the 1930s, is just the icing on the cake. All in all, incredibly difficult, but incredibly rewarding. Speaking of shmups, the Nintendo Switch has a fantastic selection to offer to players, but perhaps none more challenging than our next game. Ikaruga is not for the faint of heart, and in fact, it's probably not one for even the most hardcore of shmup lovers. Spiritual successor to 1998's Radiant Silvergun and a port of the Steam version of the game, this vertical scrolling shmup is bullet hell at its finest, and features a polarity system in which bullets are either black or white, with the player able to switch ship colours to match and gain immunity to them. Not that that's likely to help mind, as you're going to need some insane skills to contend with everything this one is going to throw at you. And while 2-player mode might seem like it would offer an easier time, coordinating your attacks and movements and the additional on-screen projectiles presents its own challenges. If you're wanting to see what the top of the food chain looks like though when it comes to bullet hell shooters, Ikaruga definitely chews up and shits out the competition in terms of its sheer difficulty. If you enjoy a good survival game but don't fancy braving the wilderness alone, then Don't Starve Together might be just the ticket. This standalone expansion of the original game features 2-player co-op and tasks you with surviving for as long as possible in a dark and dreary world known as the Constant. Here you must explore the landscape, gather food and materials, craft and construct weapons, bases and technologies to stave off starvation, and defend against the ever-gathering supernatural enemies attempting to devour you, all the while maintaining your sanity. Luckily you'll have a friend along for the ride, but the permadeath nature of this one offers up some extreme levels of challenge, and in a game where growing a beard can help you defend against the elements, there are certainly plenty of mechanics for you to master, including day-night cycles, 4 seasons, and a plethora of other features which transform both the landscape and the enemies that you face. All in all though, a fantastic survival game, and one definitely worth your time if you have the patience required to conquer it. Sticking with the Minecraft-inspired sandbox theme, next up we have Terraria, a game which I myself have plugged tens of hours into, and one which despite being over 10 years old is still receiving updates. Often referred to as a 2D version of Minecraft, while it does feature a similar collection of randomly generated worlds containing multiple biomes and base building and crafting mechanics, the game is so much more than that. For one, it's a lot more combat oriented, offering up a huge selection of weapons for you to wield, and some very challenging boss battles, hence its appearance on this list. But aside from this, Terraria has a much deeper set of mechanics in my opinion. Each of its biomes presents you with new types of enemies to contend with, there are hundreds of unique items to collect and craft, random world events, plenty of secrets to find, and after defeating the first endgame boss, the world transforms, becoming even more difficult, but opens up new challenges to the player in the form of new types of biomes, crafting materials, and boss battles. It's difficult for me to express the wealth of content the game has to offer, but if you're looking for something that's both casual and hardcore with a huge sandbox world to explore alongside a friend, then look no further than Terraria. So if you're a fan of the Soulsborne games, then Salt and Sanctuary is kind of like the 2D platformer equivalent with a similar set of mechanics and level of difficulty. There are a few minor differences, with it having a massive Path of Exile style skill tree for you when you level up, but you get to select a starting class which hands you a basic set of gear, and then off you go to explore a dark monster-filled island, slay some big horrible bosses, and die a lot. Anyone familiar with the Souls series will be right at home with this one though. Like those games, it's challenging but not unfair. You will of course have to master boss movement patterns through repetition, and the controls do share a little bit of that clunkiness, but success is determined by both player skill and the character build you choose to play. The game's co-op mode allows a second player to bring in their own character, though there is a bit of a setup required, and I will warn you, you do need a pair of Joy-Cons or a Pro Controller each, and the game does punish you for seeking help by scaling up enemy HP and damage. Multiplayer looks like a great time though. You can even participate in a spot of PvP with each other if that's your bag, but having a helping hand to battle bosses and share the pain of dying and running back to gather your soul is always welcome. The award for the simplest yet perhaps the most frustrating game on our list today goes to TumbleSeed, a game in which you have to transport a seed to the top of a mountain using a bar or platform, which in co-op mode has each player controlling the height of its left and right sides. As you make your way up the game's procedurally generated landscape though, you'll encounter obstructions to navigate around, plenty of pitfalls to lose your seed down, enemies out to get you, and some tricky puzzle-like mechanics to contend with. And the game really is the epitome of easy to pick up but hard to master, as it requires extreme levels of precision and coordination from players in order to progress at any real pace. But to aid you in your progression, you have a variety of seeds and power-ups at your disposal which help with traversing its tricky terrain and defending against its hostile inhabitants, such as filling potholes with water or auras which attract objects towards you or leech life from enemies. While these roguelike elements do add plenty of variety, as always they also introduce RNG to the mix, which in itself can pave way for plenty of frustration. But if you're looking for a uniquely different co-op title to take on with a friend, then Tumbleweed is definitely worth a shot. While the popularity of puzzle games may be waning in a modern era of minute-long attention spans, there are still some of us out there who appreciate a decent brain tickler, and for you I have Death Squared, a game which has you controlling coloured cubes and working together to solve tricky puzzles. And it's by no means the most challenging game on the Switch, but it's one which requires plenty of cooperation and teamwork to get the job done. The game's campaign mode consists of 80 levels which can be tackled in 2-player co-op mode, while party mode offers an additional 40 levels for up to 4 players. But the objective is simple: get your coloured cube to its respective coloured goal point to beat the level. While things start off relatively tame with this one, as you progress new mechanics are introduced, resulting in increasingly complex puzzles to solve. And while gameplay does involve a lot of trial and error, countless deaths, and simply moving cubes is a little finicky at times, this one's a great one to play with puzzle-loving friends, and it frequently goes on sale for only a couple of quid. So for the final entry in today's list then, we have Wulverblade, a side-scrolling beat-em-up inspired by old-school greats such as Golden Axe and Sengoku, whose storyline is also inspired by historical events in which a 120 AD Britain has come under Roman occupation, and it's your job as one of 3 battle-hardened warriors to prevent their forces marching northward and gaining complete control over the nation. Now if you're a fan of beat-em-ups, be sure to check out my comprehensive list containing over 60 of the best on the Nintendo Switch, but this one is definitely up there in terms of the most difficult. Taking the classic arcade beat-em-up formula, adding a dash of brutality and some modern day quality of life improvements, such as the ability to block and perform counterattacks and equip a wide selection of weapons, which unlike Streets of Rage don't break after only a couple of hits, Wulverblade has a surprising amount of depth to its mechanics, as each of the game's characters offers its own strengths and weaknesses as well as unique specials, including a rage mode which turns you into an unstoppable killing machine, and there are also plenty of environmental features for you to take advantage of too. While the game's story mode is a touch more casual, it's still pretty brutal, but the arcade mode offers the real hardcore challenge here, and both modes can be tackled with either 1 or 2 players. Overall, a solid option for fans of classic hack and slash games. So a bit of an honourable mention to finish off, and when it comes to top tier roguelikes with challenging co-op gameplay, there are a number of options available, and I will be putting together a list of roguelikes at some point. However, for this list I've gone with Nuclear Throne, one of the lesser known ones, but one which actually offers a little more versatility and freedom in terms of the second player participation. Now the game sees you battling your way through a post-apocalyptic nuclear wasteland in search of the Nuclear Throne, a legendary sitting place upon which only the worthiest are permitted to park their rears on. Similar to Enter the Gungeon, it's a top-down twin-stick shooter featuring randomly generated levels and an exotic selection of weapons available, but it also has a wider assortment of characters to choose from, each with their own perks and abilities. In addition to these, killing enemies yields radioactive materials which act as experience points, and levelling up offers a random selection of mutations for your chosen hero, granting you new abilities and effects ranging from health, fire rate and movement speed boost, to one which modify your attacks or add additional gameplay effects. I myself though am a huge fan of roguelikes and have had a lot of fun playing Nuclear Throne solo, but in terms of co-op options this is definitely one of the best on the platform in my opinion, and well worth picking up. And with that then we come to the end of our list, so what did you think? Are you on the hunt for a challenging co-op title to get stuck into, and will you be giving any of the ones that I've mentioned a go? Let me know down below, and while you're at it, don't forget to share your own recommendations. For now though, drop a like if you enjoyed this one, subscribe for more like it, as well as regular game reviews, and as always, thanks once again for watching, take care of yourselves, and game on.